Hi, Felicia. And we are back. Hey, another great episode right here in beautiful Central Florida. This is the show of the many Chris's. This is my brother, Doug. I'm Chris. There's Chris. There's Chris. And his beautiful wife, Karen. So, hey.
Starts with the CK kind of
CK,
thing.
yeah. Calvin Klein and Doug.
That's it.
I like it.
Hi, Felicia. And we are back.
Hey, another great getting feedback right here in beautiful.
Getting feedback.
Yeah. All right, there we go. I think we're all set up here. So we're still working through a transition. I mean, if you are following us live on Facebook now, you can see there's people from different sites, and their beautiful faces are here. So we're so blessed and lucky to have them with us today. We actually have Chris Hughes from the Dirty Oar. Listen, every single beer made at the Dirty Oar cross his taste buds, and it's like this masterpiece of art put into a fine beverage.
I'm drinking orange. This is orange juice.
This is pineapple milkshake.
Yep.
Tomato juice.
What we're drinking today is our I got her number hazy IPA. You can see can't see through it. That's what everybody wants. It is Mosaic and Galaxy, which are two very big name hops, and we use copious amounts of them, and make a palatable IPA.
Right. It is actually amazing, especially how every single different brew that you make tastes completely different. But the foundation is the same, of course. You got some fine water from cocoa, and then
yes, sir. We have some of the finest water on the planet. Cocoa water is great. The only thing I have in the brew house is a $60 whole house filter with a $30 cartridge in it, and
Right.
that's what we use, and literally get rid of the chlorine and the fluoramines.
Right.
And it's great for brewing.
Right. I know that the Dirty Oar has bounced back really well through this COVID transition time, and you've been seeing an outpouring of support. Tell us about some of the things you got going on over there.
Yeah, we did get shut down, which was by the governor, and I'm not throwing any rocks in his direction because it was a good way to slow the spread. But we were come St. Patrick's Day, we got shut down, and then we were shut down for 2 months, and then we got open for a month, and then we got shut down again. But now we've had the consideration to get back open. We have partnered with a food truck, Speedy Weenie. Mike is a great friend of ours.
Yeah, say it again. Speedy Weenie.
Speedy Weenie.
Fast dicks,
Whatever
everybody. I
fucking
don't
takes
know. Sorry, Karen. That just kind of slipped out there.
Well, that's go naturally hand in hand, a Speedy Weenie and a Dirty Oar.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. That's my favorite saying. The best little oar house in cocoa, right?
But he was willing to put us on his license, and now we have a food license in our name, and
that's cool.
we can be open for consumption on premises. So this is the best case scenario for us, and we really thank the state of Florida and the DBPR and Halsey Brashears for giving us this avenue.
That's awesome. Hey, so you got some big events coming up here in the very near future. Anybody that's going to find their way to Central Florida, you definitely have to stop by the Dirty Oar. Not only are they huge supporters of us, but they take care of so many people around them. They are good neighbors. That was kind of like the thing that they wanted to do when they came to Cocoa, and they really exemplify that in everything that they do. Mm-hmm. So what kind of events do you have coming up?
We're really hoping to have our anniversary party around Labor Day weekend. We'll see what the COVID considerations are to do that, but definitely mark your calendars down for February the 13th. We're going to have our beer fest, the Brewers Bash, up in Cocoa Village at the park, and we really want everybody to show up for that.
So lots of brewers from all around coming and throwing down some of the finest drinks.
Yes, we'll have at least 30 breweries. We're going to do more this year because the waterfront's fixed, so we can put more people down by there. But yes, we hope it's going to be as good of a success as it was last year.
We love that. And if we're new and we just find our way into Cocoa, where are we going to find you? What's the address? Tell us how to get there.
329 King Street. If anybody is thirsty and wants something unique, we're happy to serve you.
329 King Street. If you're
You can find some of the finest people there too.
Absolutely.
Every time I go there, I meet some of the coolest people, and it's always a great time. We're going to be there. What day are we there, babe?
The 27th.
27th.
You guys are actually doing a benefit for us. I think Chris is brewing everyone's hero right now,
Actually,
probably.
I'm going to
Or
put you to
soon
work
be.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're brewing your beer tomorrow.
Okay.
And you're going to do the
I'm
bulk of the work,
going
brother.
to help them. So, now when I'm home, now that Karen had to go back to school, and I don't have a daytime babysitter, so Karen said, why don't you go hang out with the guys, and you could do your work and do stuff up at the Dirty Oar. And that's obviously some of the issues I have. I have a hard time. Although I want my alone time, there's, it's good that I stay busy and moving and around my friends and stuff. So when I start talking to myself, they can witness it and talk me out of it. But so anyway, Chris, I saw him the other day. He's like, yeah, well, Tuesday we'll, come up. I'll be brewing, and now I'm going to make beer tomorrow. That's one thing I can say I've never done.
You're going to be even a bigger jack of all trades, right?
Yeah.
You can learn something new, put something new in your hat.
Might not be able to
Yeah.
drive
And
home
that's
from work
pretty
tomorrow.
Cool that you'll have a hand in brewing our beer.
Yeah.
But Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. That's Sunday the 27th, and I think it's from noon to 6.
Yeah, noon to 6, probably to 8. We're going to have
Okay.
Rockstar Lobster there, who is a great food
Yes.
truck. They do really well. And we are going to debut Everyone's Hero.
So that'll be the re-release of Everybody's
Wonderful.
Hero, which is a great for all the people listening. Come out that day, because that puts that helps us out tremendously with Survive First and helping out first responders, and we look forward to seeing them. So cool!
All
We're gonna
right.
get this party started. So
Absolutely.
anyway, I'm honored, and it's to obviously have two very good friends of mine on the show tonight as well. But my partner in Trauma Behind the Badge, we've been talking a lot about that lately, Chris Scallon. I always tell everybody, should I even tell them your code name? Because half the people probably already know you. Chris is in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Raul just chimed in and said his internet's working, so he obviously is at somebody else's house. So the famous on the show, Hingle McCringleberry, is obviously our Chris Scallon on our show tonight. For y'all to know, he's probably the funniest dude I've ever met in my life. He's the only guy that had to look over at the dinner table and tell him to shut up because my stomach hurt so bad. Remember when we were in Vegas?
That's right.
And
Yeah,
I'm
we
like,
were
dude,
blessed.
stop! I had back spasms because I still needed my back surgery, and I'm like, I can't move, I can't feel my legs. I'm laughing so hard, and I want to bring that up because that's what we're going to talk about tonight, or what Chris is going to talk about tonight. I'll tell you why I'm also excited, because in all the years I've been doing this, and all the traveling I do, and all the people I do, obviously when Chris and I hooked up, it was it was a good hookup because we are two peas in a pod, and I don't know anybody that knows as much as he does. Obviously, he's been there and done that, in the
He
industry.
just said you're the smartest guy in the world.
And I didn't say that. I just
Yeah.
knows as much
That he knows.
that
Yes,
I
yeah.
know. Well, outside of my wife, because she's the smartest person I know.
Right.
And,
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, and I put a post about my wife today, and of course, one of my old buddies from work and supervisors like, spell check. Man, no, if it's spelled right, I didn't write it, so it was heartfelt, and that's where it came from. So, anyway,
Thanks,
oh,
babe.
before we get started, this hit me the other day, and so I've been reflecting a lot lately. I've actually been going through some stuff for myself. So I'm glad that Chris and Karen were telling me today that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about helping each other, helping first responders, and self-care, and what that looks like, and how difficult it is to actually be the person on the side of helping somebody else. Helping a first responder. But as I was thinking about this the other day, and I've been on a kick lately with pushing the message of starting to take better care of yourself so you can take better care of first responders. And I spoke to a FTO class, field training officer class, the other day, and that was really the message that I gave them. Was, part of being a training officer, you need to train your new officers out there to, you got to be that mentor. You're not just telling, you're teaching them everything. I never
Right.
was an FTO. God help if I was, they didn't want a guy like they're going, kick their ass first and shoot them in the, then tell them, then read them the riot or whatever. What's that shit called? The Miranda, whatever. So you fuck it. So anyway, but here's the most important thing I thought of the other night. How important it is to have good people in your life. My wife reminded me about that. That's why I put that post out today, because I'm always putting posts out about prevention and mental health, and sometimes we don't look at just within our inner circle. So with that being said, the other day what I was thinking about was you being Chris Hadaway. It's rough for me some days.
I know.
Trust me, everybody. I
I
know
know
his last name. And Chris Scallon, right? Chris and I just spent a week in Salt Lake City. We worked our butts off helping those guys out there. And Chris Fields was with us, so we had some of the guys from Trauma Behind the Badge working. And what dawned on me was not one time in my life that I've known, I've known Chris Hadaway longer than Chris Scallon, obviously Chris Hadaway and I. So I got to say everybody's last name because there's so many freaking Chris's in the room. And we do this all the time because it's always me, Chris Scallon, and Chris Fields. So when you say Chris, they both answer at the same time. We haven't come up with code names yet.
And this, I got to cut you off real quick. Don't lose your train of thought. But he keeps the Chris's around because when he says Chris, there's two of you. He has everybody's attention.
I know. It's the only time people pay attention to me, when I got a bunch of same people. Anyway, not one time in Chris, my relationship and friendship with Chris Scallon, nor with Chris Hadaway, has there ever been a negative moment? And what I mean by that is every time I call both of these Chris's, and it was ironic that we were all going to be on the show. And I have this with other people too, but I was thinking about you two in general. Not one time has there been negativity, meaning I know that if I call Chris Hadaway, he's always going to pick up the phone. He's always going to be that Chris. He's always going to smile. He's always going to tell me he loves me and he appreciates me. And the same thing with Chris Scallon. Every time I call him, I know I'm going to laugh. We do some serious work together, so we have some serious discussions. But I'm always going to laugh. I know he's always going to have the information that I need from, meaning if I'm struggling, because we call and check on each other. Right. And so I always know that. And I always know that when I'm with him, it's going to be positive. It's going to be a positive thing. And that's important because one of the things we're especially now more than ever, and we're speaking first responders, and this goes for everybody else too. I mean, to get out of bed nowadays is a task in itself. Right. And the world is just in dire. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I'm horrified. I'm actually horrified of the way things are going. So it is really important, I think, nowadays to have those core people in your life that you can communicate with, that you can pull in tighter into your circle, and that that are going to lift you up in a positive manner. And how I always say, call your buddies, check with your buddies, call people every week. As much as I do that and people do that for me, it's that positivity in there. So one, I'm honored to be your friends because I know it ain't easy being a friend with me, but I'm honored and I just appreciate you both. And so I'm saying this on on national airwaves. That's how important it is. It hit me.
Right.
I was driving down the road. Think about it. I think it was actually on the way back from the airport the other day, Chris, when we flew back from Utah, and I'm driving down the road and I'm like. I'm reflecting on things that I have coming up and stuff like that. And I'm surrounded by some really, really awesome people. And so that's the positive side that I kind of want to put out there that you have to have, because as hard as we work on saving other people, and this has been my message, like if you can't save yourself, how are you going to save somebody else?
Amen.
So for me, I have to have that core group of people around me, and we joke about it all the time. Oh, I'm his babysitter this week, and yeah, it's true. I own up to my stuff, but I have to have that.
Right.
That's something I have to have. So that's my spiel to open us up for today, and I'm gonna let the Chris's go at it.
Well, I mean, I'm that really humbles me, and it's not easy to even say, when you're getting a compliment, it's not easy to say thank you. But I do mean that, and that's always very kind. You're just as uplifting, and that's important. I know that we have the most unorthodox relationship and conversation. So, Chris, I can only imagine when y'all are out traveling and beating the town, what that looks like. So
there's some witnesses on that column over there. They're probably gonna start.
Be easy.
They're
Be
gonna start
easy.
chiming in as we call it, the shit show. And especially when we're all together, it's pretty ugly.
The thing is, especially and Doug, I appreciate that. It's one of these things that we work in a field that is 90% doom and gloom, and when we start working with folks that are in crisis, I mean, there's no time to you just got to help. You have to have that kind of carefree, let it go by us. I'll give you an example. I was doing something with somebody that was in crisis the other day, and he went, and Doug, you saw this. He went off. He wasn't yelling at me. He was yelling in front of me, which is a big difference. And you kind of got to let them kind of blow over the steam. If you take that stuff to heart, it will kill you 100%. So when we don't have the hat on for helping people, and it's me, Doug, Chris, Karen, whoever, Louis, Raul, I mix up my Dominican name. Sorry about that, Raul. But when we're by ourselves in a B&B, we get to, there's no filter because there's no judgment. And when you have that, it's like you don't have to hold anything in. And just like if you've worked with somebody either on a SWAT team or kicking in a door or going into a burning house, when you work with people day in, day out, it becomes second nature. You rely on each other. I don't have to look back to see if Doug's going to go through the door behind me. I know that there's going to be somebody who's just as angry or just as violent in action to go through the door. So those relationships take years to build unless you've experienced similar trauma. And I know when I first met Doug, it was interesting. We were speaking in Vegas, and I was going over my last shooting, and there's a video with audible of me in the shooting and everything like that. And when the video's playing, I like to walk off the stage or off to the side so that they could just focus on that. Doug, what did you take, 5 seconds to came over? I think he thought I was in trouble because it's a really emotionally charged video. So he came over, he said, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, brother, I'm fine." And it was in that fraction of a second that I knew that we were just
Connected.
We were the same people.
Yeah.
And he's experienced, and I've done that. I've had the presentation earlier on in my career when I was doing this, completely broke down, was a wreck. So I recognized in him that he was at those places that I was. And it's no different. I joke about it all the time. It's like I grew up in New York, and I go to Nassau Coliseum to go see like Metallica or Megadeth or something like that on a Friday. And on Monday, everybody's wearing the same T-shirt from the concert. So I don't have to ask you. I know you've been to the same concert. And with Doug and I, we've been to about 300 concerts together, whether it be trauma, whether it be the self-loathing, the suicide. I mean, just just really damaging ourselves until we got to the point where we can kind of lift ourselves up and start helping people. So for me, I was like, hey, who's this fat guy coming over to me, making sure that I'm okay. I'm a plus size model, so I take care of my body, unlike Doug, who beats it up. I don't have any screws in my body. None. I've got a sausage lodged here.
It's the padding, right? It's the padding.
No, I just appreciate that kind of friendship. It's rare.
Chris, as you're explaining this, I think it was at the same Vegas trip that I met you, that you met Doug. The three of us met in the same trip. Now it's all kind of coming back. And I remember when you showed that video, I was sitting right next to Doug. We were sitting in the last row, and I remember watching it, and I broke down and was sobbing watching it because it was really emotional, or the audio listening to it really was emotionally charged. And I remember Doug getting up. I do remember that, him going up and walking down the side and walking up the side to talk to you. And that whole thing was so powerful in so many ways, because it brought a connection for me to Doug, thinking about some of the things he had been through, listening to it, and through your presentation, and then watching that connection that you two made. And then you and I later on that day, I remember you and I having an hour-long conversation outside. And so I mean, the things that you and Doug and Chris Hadaway, by you joining our team, the things that you guys do is just incredible work, and how you take care of each other as you do this work. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. I would never want to have experienced everything that I've experienced, and this is how, like when we do group work and I work with vets and first responders, from this giant ball of trauma, I have now been put in the proximity of amazing people. Like I wouldn't be here had it not been for the bad stuff. So I take that, especially when I work with folks, and also trying to convince myself that as bad as it gets, that could be the catalyst for meeting and finding true happiness in life, in both your friends, your family, the professional side. And it's weird because, like, for me, all that stuff is melded together. I mean, you guys know my wife Jill. I know you guys. When we go out, the Chris that you see out on the town is a Chris that you see when we're one-on-one and you're in crisis. There's no different. And we had a situation earlier on when we were in Utah where there was somebody that was really hurting, and you kind of plateau them. You get them to the place where they're not 100 miles an hour in their head. They're kind of pumping the brakes a little bit. And what puts them over the line for getting back together is something funny. You bring something funny up. And sometimes it's gallows humor, but other times it's just these other ancillary kind of conversations that we have. But for me, the greatest joy, and I'm sure this is for Doug and Chris as well, I'm selfish because in helping others, it helps me. It is the most selfish thing that you could ever do. It's a combination of selfless and selfish. And I love it and I appreciate it. It gives me the ability to be like cathartic, to kind of just throw up my emotions on somebody. And I want to say this before we go any further. I probably had one of the roughest years in my life. One of the roughest years in a long time. I lost my canine. Just had a friend kill himself. We were having some health issues with some family members. It was like every week, it was like something shitty happening. But I can tell you this much. And I can count them on one hand. After those things happen, I'll get a phone call from either Doug, Chris. That's just what it is. I don't expect it, but I know it's going to be there. And everything that we've kind of gone through in the last several months. And by the way, the COVID for me has been a godsend, because it's made me slow down and like not do anything and kind of sit at home. But now that we're picking up again, I'm kind of, I need to slow it down a little bit more. And Doug and I talked about this a little bit ago, and can kind of consolidate. Somebody asked us, we can help you kind of get in the limelight and put yourself out there. And I don't know if you remember what I said, Doug. I'm like, fucking no.
Yeah.
No.
We were all like, hell
Yeah,
no.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that. I want something small to concentrate on.
Yeah, you're right. We do need to slow down, and Karen had to remind me because I just taught this the other day. So when I came back from Utah at like 3 a.m, next morning I had to go speak at a college, a bunch of guys in training, and I talked about the wheelbarrow and how you overflow. We're notorious for overflowing, and Karen had to remind me this morning because I've been losing it the past few days, like just overwhelmed, overstressed, and just feeling horrible. And I have some habits that make me wake up with a headache sometimes. And Chris, so I'm reading it. So Chris Field says, I had the privilege to watch Scallon in a group session at the residential facility that week. That's probably what he's talking about, right? The guy that we were in there dealing with. And he said, the dude is awesome, hard, direct, truthful, understanding, compassionate. And so he had the privilege to watch you. Can you respond to him and say, no shit, Sherlock, you were sitting right next to us? You were. Did you forget you were with us?
What's messed up is he was also contributing. It wasn't just me.
It was him too. But nice compliment. And then
Thank you.
Doc Levy said, we're all soulmates. We should all ride tandem bikes together. So, we should.
Oh, I'm on it.
You're fat ass too.
He might want to take the seat off and just ride without the seat.
Only 2 people can ride that tandem bike.
Oh no, I'm sure
Babe,
someone
gotta
can
get
ride
paid,
the
babe.
handlebars backwards.
The basket.
The basket. You can put 4 people on that bike, no problem.
Babe, I appreciate you bringing that up because I think it's important for all of you guys. It's been it was a stressful weekend for Doug and I. And this morning I had to put it plain and simple. I had to say, empty your wheelbarrow. I can imagine that it is healing for you guys to talk about the things that you've been through and to help others because you've been through it and you've survived it. But in the same respect, you take on more and more and more and pile more and more, as Doug talks about it when he teaches the wheelbarrow effect. It's empty one day, and then the next thing you know, it's full, and you're so busy focusing on that wheelbarrow that you're not looking at the things that are around you that are really, really important. And so I think it is important for everyone to realize, even for you guys, you can experience kind of like a compassion fatigue, and that will wear you down. So I did, all it took was for me to say, empty your wheelbarrow. And it was like, boom, that reminder to him that, whoa, we have to practice what we preach too. So
Self-help
I appreciate you bringing that up, babe, because I think that's important for all of us, for myself as well as I go back to school. I have a lot of stress on my plate. I have school, I have health issues, I have, Doug starting to travel again, being home, by myself, taking care of the family. And I can let all that pile on and I get more agitated and aggravated more easily. So even for me and for everybody else out there, for spouses, we need to every once in a while take a hard look and empty that wheelbarrow a little bit so we can focus on the things, on the other things that really matter in life as well, and take care of ourselves.
So when you're helping folks, and when Doug and I go out on the road, there's a couple different things that kind of impact us. There's the financial aspect. Now, we by far not the people that go out there and make millions of dollars. That's just not us. I've forever been, I know Karen, but I've forever been doing this shit for free. And it wasn't until recently, about a year or two ago, where my wife was like, knock that shit off, get paid for it. So there's a side of me that we're putting ourselves in harm's way by dedicating ourselves to helping folks. But in doing so, it's at the detriment financially to me. I mean, because Doug heard me. We had a conversation this week with some folks, and and I said, listen, I got student loans. By the way, thank you, Trump, for extending it to January 1st. I got student loans. I got health insurance. I got all these financial responsibilities. As much as I want to help, I also have to be sure to make sure my family's okay. So there's an added component to helping people. You know, people think, and these are the people that have never been traveling like we've been traveling. They're like, oh my God, where were you at this week? Buddy might call me up. He goes, oh, you were in Utah? I'm like, yeah. Doug, Utah wasn't a let's go have a party trip. Every second of every day was
Work.
We were either in front of somebody or we were working, or we were doing a video for 3 hours. We're doing this, we're doing that. And I remember coming home, and everybody's got that mindset that Chris just went out, had 4 or 5 days of fun. Did I enjoy myself with the people that we were out there? Hands down, can't argue that. But was it fun? No, it was work. Was it great seeing the folks doing group work in person? Because normally I do it, virtually. Unbelievably, but it is still a heavy hour and a half, 2 hours. Which that one, because some other stuff turned into like 3 hours. It was mind blowing. But
Yeah,
I don't want people to get the wrong idea that we're out there like going to Texas. We're going to California. All that. That sucks, assholes.
Yeah.
I hate traveling.
yeah,
By the way, that's a medical term. I can use that.
yeah.
I hate it. We were at the airport together.
What?
I wanted to stab somebody because I had a mask on for fucking 19 hours, and my breath smells. My beard is chafed. It's disgusting.
Yeah,
But
we were both about to. We met in Atlanta and then we flew together to. I won't tell the airplane story because that was just some of my finest work. But
oh, that was great.
we met in Atlanta and we had to fly. And, it's a long day of traveling. We ate. What did we eat for 3? What is that place called?
Fucking Jimmy John's.
Fucking
for
Jimmy John's for
fucking
3
straight.
days, man. Every event we showed up at, every department was like,
Jimmy
here it came,
John's.
Jimmy John's. I came home and told Karen, I said, when she was gonna make dinner, I don't care what it is, as long as it ain't got lunch meat in it,
Jimmy
man.
John's.
I'm so freaking sick of Jimmy John's. And by the time I get my sandwich
of
and I
the-
take all the vegetables out, there ain't but like something bread. So
Yeah, I mean, one of the last places we went to, they were like, we were sitting there. I was like, oh man, hope we get something good for lunch. And they slide us a Jimmy John's flyer. They're like, circle what you want. I'm like, motherfucker. And I was like, just give me a Diet Coke. I'm
Diet
good with that.
yeah,
I'll eat toenail clippings.
yeah. Yeah, it is difficult. It is, and we're not. Listen, we
You're not
we choose to
ungrateful.
do it. We're not
Absolutely.
ungrateful. We're not asking for pity. We
Oh,
do.
no, absolutely.
We have a lot of fun. We're with some of the boys out there, and we're getting ready to go to Texas with the Trauma Behind the Badge guys, and that's going to be just an incredible event. And we will, but it's strenuous. It's hard work. It is like Chris said. It's fun to be around your guys and do it, but everybody that you deal with, you're taking that on. And here's the scary part. Like, you're taking it on like somebody like me who really, in all reality, it's like if you have if your car breaks down, the last thing you want is the mechanic pulling up into a freaking raggedy ass beater with no AC, no windows, dented door, right?
Yeah.
You want the guy pulling up with the nice car and go, oh, okay, or that type of is what I'm getting at that point. And that's kind of the direction that I come from. Like, hey man, like I'm equally, but I'm here to listen. That's really the key to it. I'm here, and it helps me because as I'm doing this, I'm hearing it. Or for what I'm with Chris and I hear Chris doing it. And even in a conversation with you, as you're talking to me, I hear it. That's what works best for me. Everybody's got their thing. That's what works for me.
So it's really important, and I'll jump in here because it requires your feedback. So through your policing careers, you were filling your wheelbarrow, right? And sometimes you were filling it, and sometimes other people are filling it. And so what you're talking about, and just for anybody that's just tuning in, the conversation is, what is the impact and what does that look like for the helpers of the helpers, right? So now you've taken on the task of going to help the helpers, and there's still a larger impact on you also. And so when you're helping, sometimes that can also load up your wheelbarrow, but do you find it loading up your wheelbarrow faster because now you start bearing the burdens of what the first responders are going through and how they're dealing with it, and our immediate need to help and fix everything around us, and knowing that someone in front of you is broken. How do you deal with that now, putting other blocks that look similar that you already cleared out of your wheelbarrow? How do you deal with that moving forward? And because and this conversation is important, and here's why. Because everybody that's following along, you are talking to somebody. You have someone in your circle that you are going to help, or that person is going to help you. This is a transition point, so we're all on the same bus, right? And you need, this is to fill you up and give you the guidance and the thought process to go and be the helper more than the helper that you already are. So
I guess and I've said this before, and I say it a lot, and normally I have this conversation with somebody who's just coming out of recovery, who's a first responder that wants to help, because they're like, I want to help the world. And I'm like, slow down there just for a second. The thing is, our desire to help people, and anybody who does this work well, our desire to help people is often outweighed by our inabilities. And what that means is that we often go far beyond the place that we should, and we need to take a step back. And I'll give you an example. I got a phone call from a supervisor while I was still working, still running the peer group. And he said, hey, listen, man, just called one of my guys. He's crying. I think he's going to kill himself. Can you come help me? Now, I'll pause right there. That week consisted of me staying with a police officer for almost 24 hours at a psychiatric facility, getting that individual process through. After that, had 2 or 3 other calls, helped somebody else. There was some marital issues going on. There was a kind of a violent separation where there was some legal stuff involved. Then, a good friend of mine, his father died. I was at his funeral, and then I got a call from the chief, and they said, hey, we need you. There's an officer that wants to kill himself and then his wife. And of course, I'm on my last legs. And making everything a joke, I said, in that order, because he's like, he's going to kill himself and then his wife. And I'm like, in that order? He's like, what? And I'm like, I'm talking to the chief now. And I was like, all right, no, I'm on my way. So I spent some time with that. And then that following day, I was out. I was checked out. And I get this phone call. So I told him, I said, no. I got to tell you something. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to decline. Now, I said no, prefacing that I'm going to put him in touch with somebody that's going to handle him.
Help. Yep.
Now, I did not sleep a wink that night. And if this guy killed himself, I know my immediate reaction was going to be, I wasn't there, so that's my fault. So you take all that in consideration. And Doug said it, I think, 100 times this past week. You can't help people if you're not helping yourself. So saying no while I wasn't going out there didn't do anything for me to help me because I was just as stressed. So I took a good 3-4 days off of not dealing with anything, just kind of submerged myself in paperwork because I needed to recharge. So, and I'll tell you this, the best peers, because everybody wants to be a peer. There's people that want to be a peers that have no business doing it, and then there's people that don't want to do it that would be amazing peers. And it's one of these things that the best peer is not knowing what to say. The best peer knows when he or she is not at the level. In other words, if that individual needs next level care and they're out of their league, a great peer knows when he or she is stepping out of their lane. So it's just a matter of us. And again, I wish I could tell you I did this by myself. I don't. I got a beautiful wife that keeps me in check 24/7. I got friends that if they see me slipping, like I had a cookout the other day, and they were like, how you doing, man? And they actually told me, and I was relaxing outside, chilling, and they're like, you look tired. And fuck, you know what? I
to
am
say
tired.
the least, yeah.
I'm exhausted. But for me, I thrive to get to that place where I can balance my ability to help people and my ability to take care of myself so I don't ruin myself. It'd be like an athlete training, but you don't train so hard that you injure yourself and then you can't compete. You just got to train yourself to the best of your ability and make sure that when you're starting to ache a little bit, that you tone it down a little bit. You take it into another gear.
How do you
Well said.
how do you build up the courage to say no? When how do you know when to say no?
I knew I probably could have handled it, but I was diagnosed with PTSD and severe depression with suicidal ideations. So when I decline rapidly, and my first thoughts go to suicide. That's just how I'm made up. That I wish my first thought was, to tickle myself, but it's just one of those things. So I don't have the luxury of letting myself decline that bad. And I had, and this is early on when I was all kind of figuring out like the formula. I had a rough month, and I would come home, have a drink, and then kind of do my thing. And at the end of the week, my wife comes in, she's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Because, she's tactful and very calm and polite. And I said, "What?" She goes, "You've not said one word to me the entire week. You come in through the door, you sit down, you have a drink, and you zone out." That is me on the precipice of falling off. And that is, if I'd have kept on going 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to start having some significant suicidal ideations. And, no one loves me. I'm destroying my marriage. This is what's going on. I'm destroying my marriage. I'm not effective at work. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Fuck, that's where I go. So I kind of know, almost like to the point where some folks know that they'll have a seizure if they continue doing what they're doing. There's just something about if I start feeling heavy despair, if I start feeling like everybody's against me or doesn't like me, if I start feeling, which in some cases it's true, but it overwhelming kind of sense. If I sit back and I start thinking, I don't like this right now, then that's when I need to stop. I need to say no, because I've already gone probably a yard past what I need to go.
Let me ask you a question, Chris. How did you come to recognize, because I'm sure it wasn't immediate, how did you come to recognize that when you get to that, when you're backsliding, that you need to say no, or you need to take a break? Because I think that is one of the hardest things for first responders who have not tackled, learned to cope or tackle the problem or use those tools to know when to say, this is not good where I'm at. I either need to take a break. How did you get to that point? When did you realize that that's what you needed to do?
That Jill's foot was stuck up his
Buried
ass.
in his ass.
And he couldn't sit down in the chair, so he had to pull it out. Same issue I got at home.
I don't know. I will tell you, earlier on when I was struggling and my wife was struggling in dealing with me, that it's hard to see recognize a shift in your own personality. It's very hard to see unless you're super, super well in tune to it. So normally I'll start seeing, like some, not adversarial, but more like she's like, "Hey, what's going on?" Or why are you doing this? And all this good stuff. So I started to kind of gauge and preemptively identify where I'm at and how I'm feeling, so I don't have to get her to the point where she has to say something. So for me, it's, again, I'll start getting, and it's my depression that kicks in, where I'll start feeling helpless. I'll start feeling like I'm not doing any good in the world. And when I start feeling that, normally I'm in the middle of doing something, and then I'll say, "Okay, let me finish this task," and then I need to take a break. I need to sit down. I need to watch, West Wing or Ellen or whatever the fuck I need to watch, just to zone out and then just kind of relax. Like we had a long week, right? And we had a bunch of stuff come up. I told my wife, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go play golf with a friend of mine." Cool. Before I left, the AC unit went out, so now I got to have some chooch come into my house for God knows how much money and do all this other stuff. And now I feel bad, and I'm going out to do the thing that I normally like to do to relax, and now I'm kind of apprehensive. So I constantly call back. I'm on the green, playing a phenomenal game, as I always do, and I hadn't thrown a club away or cursed out a ball or anything, so it was doing good. So I called back and the AC started working, and she was kind of fine. And like the back nine, I was able to kind of just forget about everything and get mad at my horrible shots and love getting mad at them, or throw a club or whatever it is. But it was a focused energy. Nothing else mattered, Now in the parking lot, and this is what we have to deal with, myself, you, Doug, everybody, Chris. In the parking lot, 5 phone calls from 4 different people. Everybody needs something immediately. And so I didn't lie, but I told them at a meeting. I was meeting with some friends to play golf, but they already got their golf cart loaded up and everything, and I'm on the phone, and I don't want to rush people because, it's kind of, I would want somebody to treat me kind of halfway nice when they call me for help. So yeah, for me, I've grown to know my signs and symptoms, and with the help of, my family and friends, that's how I identify it. That's when I draw the line in the sand, and I continue to do what I got to do to get better.
Let me touch on something real quick. So, Chris was saying, his wife recognizes the signs, and he does, and Chris and I actually pretty much have the exact same issues. And Karen will tell you, that's how I am. First thing I go to is, I'm done. Right. I'm not a big fan of, I haven't been a big fan of, being around. Just wasn't. I always had this mentality in my head. If I can't serve and I can't do the things that I want to do, what good is it here? And it's easy for somebody who's struggling with depression in this era. Like, you got to think Chris and I we're not out on the street running and gunning like Chris Hadaway is. So, we're running. We're just usually running from the cops nowadays, but because we've been out raising hell.
But you can't hide.
Anyway, what I wanted to touch on is like somebody like myself. So I'm always all over the place. So how do you know? Because I'm either like super friendly, super what do you call that? Manic. I'm either really super nice or I'm super pissed off, and there's no in between for me. I fuel off of part of my symptoms, or whatever you want to call it, from suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder is I have no 0 to 60. And I've had these discussions with my doctors all the time. And I said doctors because I don't have one therapist. I got a fucking fleet of them there because I wear them out probably, right? But one of the issues that I have is if I walk into a room and I'm in a good mood and somebody starts arguing, I instantly go into that mode. And so Chris and I were, me and the boys we were in this group, and this dude flipped out and started yelling at another. And the first thing was I lit up. I almost got up because I was ready to go over there and choke the dude out and slap him, tell him to get, and thank God that Chris Scallon, being better than me, was in the room, did his joke. And Chris Fields, who was sitting between us, he does what he always does. He just looks at everybody like you're crazy, and Chris handled the situation. But that's a difficult situation to put somebody in. So I had to shout out to my wife today on social media because I've just been a royal freaking prick to her. I'm gonna admit it on that. I just have been, and she's been stuck with me for 6 months in the house dealing. You know what I mean? So it's just been difficult. And I came home, I was super exhausted, just like Chris was talking about earlier. Super tired, super stressed out, dealing with all the mayhem. We can't even talk about some of the things we dealt with while we were there, but they were radical. And I came home and it was one thing after another. Yeah. Like I woke up, we woke up this morning with water coming through our wood floor because our freezer took a crap and leaked freaking water all over the place. That's what I woke up to this morning. So, it's just when it rains, it pours, and, for that saying, and, how do you come out of it, and how do you deal with it? And do you have somebody in your life that can recognize that and call you out? And that's what I was talking about earlier, making sure you bring those people in together. Are you just going to freaking let him clean your whole fucking beard, bro? Or you could tell.
Listen,
so Chris didn't
If
tell
anybody
you.
was stressed out, the stress is all gone.
I
Dogs
was
make
hearing
everything better.
something. I finally looked up at Chris's screen. I'm like, oh, that's what it is. I thought somebody was licking the
Getting a
mic.
little kiss.
But you could tell Chris is he's a canine cop as well, just like Chris Attaway. But anyway, and my brother wants to know what kind of mic you got. You just blew his speaker out of his phone. It's like when we were kids, Don. She's the opposite of an Italian. She's Latin. Where's that coming from?
Uh-oh.
That's you, Karen.
Audio.
That's you.
I didn't hear that.
She's
Yeah,
drunk.
we hear it. It's coming from your computer.
Me?
Yes.
No, my girlfriend in the other room.
She's right here.
She's at your house.
Listen, let me add to this conversation.
Back
Chris,
up from
you
the
were
computer,
saying
babe.
how-
Back up a little bit. You're
Back up.
blowing all our eardrums out.
Better.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
that
Yes, we can, babe.
Yes, ma'am.
My deaf
Okay,
ass can hear
so-
you.
Chris, you were saying how, Jill will come in and call you out, or say what's going on with you. And I do, the same thing with Doug. And it was like I said, it was a rough weekend in the Monda household, and I had to call him out on some stuff. But I think I mentioned this, or that stalker on Trauma Behind the Badge last week mentioned that for spouses, sometimes it can be very difficult to point things out or to call their spouse out. But it actually is so important, because I think sometimes you guys have a hard time recognizing, because you're in that moment, you're in that that wave of depression that is sinking. You can't just pull yourself out of it. And so I think it's so important for spouses and significant others to realize that yes, sometimes it is scary, I guess, for lack of a better term, because you don't know if you're doing the right thing, if you're going to push the buttons by saying something, but it is so important and oftentimes critical. Like, babe, I believe that our conversation today, you needed to hear those words from me, and it made him realize, like, whoa, I do need to kind of take a step back. And it wasn't about like, oh, you're being this, you're being that. It was, I'm worried about you. I see you kind of spiraling. I'm worried about you. Take a step back, breathe. It's okay. So I think it is important. Like when you say that Jill will point things out to you if she has to. I will point things out to Doug, and I'm sure Crystal will point things out to you.
I make her do it with her shirt
that's
off,
so
though.
important.
He makes her do it with his shirt off, he said. Actually, Karen looked like, when she goes to school in the morning, she looks really, really good. And I was like, all right, I better tighten up, or I'm going to be making out with ghosts all day. And, so I'm trying to earn my way back into the bedroom. But, hey, Chris, I want to read something to you. So this is from Richie. He sent this. He sent it to you too, so you got it on your phone. But I'm going to read it. I told him I was going to read it already. So one of our teammates, Rich Creamer, he sent to us. He said, "You hit it on the head, Chris. It's the toughest thing to say no. It's also tough to put in more work than the person that actually needs it. It is tough to let that person fail." Okay, and what he, what I get from that is it's hard to put a whole bunch of effort and work into somebody that's not willing to do it either. That's complaining. But we, as being victims of this, we see it. We see what it can fall into. Right. Like somebody could be just being complaining on one day, but by the next week it could be catastrophic. And the reason you put that hard work in, and the reason we can, and I remind people of this, if you've never buried one of your boys, you're lucky. You're blessed, you're lucky. But unfortunately for me, for Chris Scallon, for Chris Hadaway, for most of us guys, we've had to bury our boys. We've seen them fall. We've seen stuff we don't care to even share too much. And you don't want to be in that predicament. And I've always had this fear that I preach about on there is like, hey, listen, if we don't take care of each other, who's gonna? And I another thing I say a lot on when I'm speaking is, if somebody's if one of our boys, and I'm talking just from the police side of it, right? Same thing for fire, you know. If one of your boys is in the middle of the street getting gunned down and getting his ass handed to him, what would you do? That's what I asked the audience. And every one of them say the same thing. Man, we come running. As us cop knows, everybody comes running. Everybody. The chiefs come, everybody comes running. And then I say, yeah, we all come running. Then why don't we do that when somebody's at home getting their ass kicked? We're too tired, we're too busy, we're too this, we're too that. And, so I go into it. So it is really important that you're there for everybody, that you make yourself available. And with that being said, why we brought this topic up, if you can't take care of yourself, and coming from spec op guys, you can't save somebody if you can't. You can't run into a building in a gunfight unprepared, because you're just going to get killed and you're going to make war work for the next guy to pull you out.
Right.
You can't. And you also have to do it with compassion and caring, and that's hard for me because I'm not a very compassionate guy at times. But you have to have all those things, and in order to be all that, and if you're a cop, or you're a first responder, let's just say that, and I'm just talking for first responders in this text. If you're going to be a husband, if you're going to be a wife, if you're going to be a dad, if you're going to be a mom or a family member, you have to. And I'm preaching, but I'm by all means, I'm not good at this.
You're doing great. Keep
I'm
going.
working at it. You have to do the best that you can for them. And in order to be the best for your spouse or your kids or your coworkers, you have to be the best person that you can be. And in order to be that person, you need to focus on yourself, whether it's emptying the wheelbarrow, as we like to use that term. Take care of yourself.
Yes.
You've got to be happy. People look at you, and especially dealing with first responders, we smell bullshit before it comes out of an ass.
That's
Do we
true.
not? We do.
We smell it in your guts.
Right, we do. So, and when you're working with those, if you're not all in, for lack of better terms, you're not going to get that message across. So that's my important side of it.
Because I deal with a lot of folks that deal with substance abuse, and it's the toughest thing. And people think that substance abuse and mental health, two different things. Substance abuse is not the problem. Substance abuse is a symptom of an underlying problem, which 9 times out of 10, there's a mental health connection. So when I talk to people, and to what Richie was saying, sure, it's frustrating working harder than the person you're helping, but you have to understand the person that you're helping. Not all the time. And Doug, we ran into this week with an individual that was not, and I'm not going to get into it, but we were working a lot harder than this individual was working. But to those people when I talk to them, I say, hey, listen, if I could do this for you, I would. And people look at myself and Doug and Chris and Raul and Richie and all the folks that do this as these strong people. For alcoholics, they're one drink away of ruining their lives. For us, we're one bad interaction from spiraling out of control. We are by no means, put together well. We have been fortunate, whether it be lucky, whether it be, good relationship we had, and we worked to get to that good place. But we are just as broken. And I think you never get fixed. You get to a point where you're able to mitigate all these different things that are coming at you. So, like when we were sitting in a group setting and somebody kind of flies off the handle, that's not the first time I've seen that. It's one of those things that I get it. And again, people are never mad at other people. When you see that kind of outburst, and when you're trying to do a group or you're doing one-on-one, and they start yelling, there's a distinct difference between somebody who's frustrated and yelling in front of you, and somebody who's frustrated or angry and yelling at you specifically because of what you're doing. Now, I take that when Doug and I and Karen and everybody, when we get people into programs, they're mad at us. But you have to understand the context. They're mad at us because they've gotten to a point in their life where they have had control taken away from them. And if you're a first responder or a vet, that fucking sucks. So take it with you. You can't be in this business and have thin skin. Got to have thick skin. But having said that, and the reason why this is kind of a reoccurring theme, I lost 2 friends in the last year that we tried to reach out. One, the family reached out to me to get them help. By the time we reached out, the individual already passed away because of substance-related issues. And we just lost one of my really good friends who I thought was, doing great. And he wasn't. That, for me, those are the sad ones. Those are the ones that I don't have anybody to share that with other than myself. And again, with those situations, knowing that I kind of absorb that, I think I sent a text to Doug and Chris. I was like, lost a good friend today. And it was one of those, it's all I could do to not be mad. Did I call him enough? Did I not? Do I give him enough space? Apparently it was too much space, or was it? We have this inner dialogue with ourselves, constantly beating ourselves up. But like anything else, and when I'm dealing with first responders and vets, I have yet to come across an individual that has one problem. So keeping that in mind, I'm dealing with individuals in a group setting. And when I say group, I mean 30, 40 individuals that I know at any given time are either going to call me or go into services or anything like that. I just added 14,000 other people into my head. So when I come home and, Jill says something and I bark or I'm dismissive, that's not me being dismissive to her. That's me having 14 other dialogues in my head on top of my own issues that I'm dealing with. So this is not pretty work. It's great when it does work, but sometimes you could do everything for everybody, and people are going to do what they're going to do. And sometimes we lose them, and it's unfortunate. And so that's why I've adopted this mentality, and it took me a while to get here, that you can call me a cocksucker. You can yell at my face, fuck you, you don't know me, and I'll be like, okay. But when you're done, and when you think you need it, you can always know that I'm going to be there. I don't care how much you hate me or anything like that. Without a doubt, if you pick up the phone, I'm going to answer it, and I'm going to help you as if you were my brother or my sister. And so once you take that and learn to kind of sweep it off you, and again, for me, it's a learning. It's I'm still learning all this kind of stuff. It's only been like a decade that I've been doing this stuff. So it's one of those things that I'm passionate, but I'm not going to be compassionate to the point where it affects me negatively and I not do something about it.
Raul chimed in and said he thinks he's awesome with dealing with problems of others, which he is. He's a seasoned veteran SWAT operator, 25-year police officer, and he also did something more heroic than most people have ever done. If you don't know his story with the Pulse shooting, he's a hero. We're honored to have him as our friend and be part of our team. But he said, he was on the show last time. Yeah, he was on the show last week, the same role. But I truly struggle endlessly with my own, which he does. He's always going to. We're always going to be, and that's why it's so important and to have him. And we know how great he is with helping other people. That's why he's on this team. But he helps us. He helps us as well as we help him, and Chris helps me. I help him. It's important that we stick together and that we take care of each other. I mean, I'm just saying it here. I'm going to beat it to death on this show. I say all the time, call people. Well, as I was laying this weekend, just having a horrible, horrible weekend, things weren't good. I didn't want to pick up that phone ever again. I was just like, I need a break. And the phone rings. And Karen's in the other room, and I yell, "Who the fuck is that?" God, who's calling me now? Like, I really did, didn't I, babe? She goes, it's your brother. I go, oh, I'll take that phone call, because I knew he was going to make me laugh and brighten my day. And, so you get that negative, but you always got to at least try, and you do got to reach out to people. I preach that all the time. Call, check on your boys, check on your buddies.
I think there's something really important to take away here, and that is there is no manual for what life looks like. And so you bring the different writers into your life, the people that have their own story, and you start to work with them, and you build that foundation of help, of health, of hope, and that's how you're able to drive on. It's important that you find those people in your life and that you let them know that they're your people. My wife, Crystal, has been really good as she's went through nursing to say, these are my people. These are at work. These are the people that I can cling to and work through this, whatever they're going through at work. You got to have your people. Figure out who those people are. You might be somebody's person. So start to realize that too, that, when someone's reaching out to you and they're giving you a little bit of insight into their life or what they're thinking, or they're asking questions or looking for direction, that you might be their person. So hold on tight, but there's a huge group of people that are here to support you through that. And if you don't know what to do, if you don't know what to say, don't be hasty in a reaction. Take a breath and we can work through this together. Reach out to us, please, where everybody's here to help. This is a huge family. 2020 has been extremely hard on a lot of people. I mean, we're going through it. We're all in it together, and that sounds cliche or whatever the hell it is, but you're not alone. And it's important that you pick up the phone, that you reach out to someone, that you say, I care. Doug said it best when we first kicked this off, was just 5 people a week. Pick somebody on the drive home, and grow that. If somebody doesn't know about this podcast or watching us live on Facebook, reach out and let them know. Maybe this is an outlet for them to take away a new thought, a new idea, to help somebody else. That's what what our ultimate goal is to help somebody else. And in helping somebody else, we're helping ourselves, which is super important. We're going to continue to drive on and find new ways to help each other. You can follow Doug and Chris and everybody across the United States. They're coming to a town near you. Trauma Behind the Badge. Listen, everybody's family's connected to a law enforcement officer. Whether you hate us or you love us, you're connected. And we're going to fight through this together. So please don't give up on yourself. If you haven't realized it, I think this is our 23rd or 24th show. And it's not easy to sit here and go and rehash all these violent memories or whatever brought us to here to want to sit in front of you. But it's important work, and we're going to continue to do that. And we're so thankful for everybody tuning in. I know Karen's going to tell us what we got coming up, because those things are important, and we're not able to do this. None of this stuff is free. We're not asking for you to give us money. We're asking to when you can give it to someone that we can help. I appreciate it. So,
Chris, you want to? Sorry,
go ahead. Go.
Chris Scallon, you want to do some shout outs for us? And
dude, I've been watching the show forever.
It's Raul. I'm sure it's Raul's fault.
Son of a bitch. No, you guys are amazing. I think the draw you get is because there are a lot more of us that are out there that don't realize it. And when they hear you guys, or they hear us over Trauma Behind the Badge, they start saying, okay, I'm messed up too. So I do want to say this, and I'll leave it to Doug, and we'll figure it out for tomorrow's show. But Trauma Behind the Badge has got some major things happening within the next month or so that will either debut on our show, but since you guys start on a Monday, we'll let you guys steal the thunder a little bit. But Chris, man, it's been awesome. The Dirty Whore, thank you for trying to get me a beer, but fucking dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah, well, we'll blame it on Chris Hughes.
Funny? I told Jill, I said, gonna send me beer?" And then she's like, "Did the beer come in yet?" I'm like, "Fuck no, I got a
No,
Bloody
I know.
Mary."
They-
God bless America.
You know how it is when you own a beer place. It's hard to leave the door. By the time he probably got lost on the way leaving the block. But Chris Fields wanted me to remind you. Did you see his comment on there? He said, if you ever use your glasses in your billfold, don't look in the hat. If you do, you might find an iPad. Chris Fields, the only one, had his act together last week. And I seem to lost all my stuff the entire week. That's all we do is look for it. And there's Chris's iPad that we found as we were looking for my hat. But anyway, thanks for reminding us of what kind of idiots we are, Chris Fields. So we got some really cool stuff coming up with Trauma Behind the Badge. It's been amazing. We got really cool stuff coming up with Survive First. We got 2 sniper rifles donated. Pew, 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 pew. I mean, big mega dollar sniper rifles. I'm just going to tease you with that. We're going to be selling raffle tickets. We just got a Glock donated to us today from B&H Gun Rack that we're going to raffle off. I'm stealing my wife's thunder because she doesn't know the specifics on that. But anyway, I'm going to let her close this out with some. And then, well, Chris, any final words? You can find us tomorrow. Tell everybody where they can find us tomorrow night, and then I'm done.
Yeah, so tomorrow we're going to be doing Trauma Behind the Badge, 7 o'clock. We'll put out it on Facebook, and hopefully everyone comes back. We've been getting a growing listener or views from California to Canada to Central America. So join us all. Trauma Behind the Badge.
Yeah, we got some feedback issues. We got some feedback issues again. I'm going to blame it on Karen. It's Karen's computer.
It is. I probably need a new computer. Can you hear me now?
Of course she does. Let me guess. You need a MacBook Pro.
I do, and I need a new Garmin. So the Garmin's actually almost on order. It's in the shop.
You can find him on
cart.
Peachtree later.
So here we go. Tomorrow, you guys definitely go to Trauma Behind the Badge. Is it .com or .org?
.com.
Okay. TraumaBehindTheBadge.com. It is a free webinar, so register for that every single week. It is amazing. They have a panel and have amazing guests, and they talk about such meaningful and powerful things. So please register for that. September 27th, of course, at the Dirty Oar. They are having a benefit for Survive First. They will be bringing back Everyone's Hero, which last year at their benefit for Survive First, people love that beer, Chris. So we're really excited that you guys are bringing that back. So please come join us at Dirty Oar in Cocoa on September 27th. We will be there from noon until Chris said 8-ish. So it should be a great day and, of course, a beautiful day. And, of course, the proceeds will be donated to Survive First to help first responders. And then, of course, we have our Run for Responders 5K on January 2nd. Chris Scallon, we would love for you and Jill to make it down for that one because that is such an amazing evening, such a fun event. The people that come together, the first responders, the community, it's just an amazing night. So you can register for that on runsignup.com. We also have an event on our Facebook page for that, so you can get to the link right there through our Facebook page. Dirty Oar is there every year supporting us, so I'm sure they will be there this year handing out the free beer to all of the finishers. So it's going to be a great time. It sells out every year we've had it. This is our 3rd year, so we expect it to sell out this year. So please get on and register. And we also, I'm sorry, I skipped right over that one. October 3rd, Saturday, October 3rd, we have MFC Space Coast Motorcycle Club. They are having their annual charity event where all the proceeds will go to Survive First. They are another huge supporter of Survive First, so please come out and join us at that. It will be at Rockledge VFW, and again, the Dirty Oar will be there as well. So please come join us for that. We have some great events, lots of fun, and we hope to see you guys there. It's been an awesome night. Thank you, Chris, for coming on and being with us. I just love seeing your face. It's always a good time. And Chris Hadaway, always good to see your face. And thank you to Space Coast Podcast. Thank you, Chris from Dirty Ore. And babe, I will see you when you get home, and I will have a snack ready for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like snacks.
That's how I handle shit.
Yeah.
I want some snacks.
Y'all be easy.
Y'all
Have a great week.
night.
Chris,
Chris,
I'll
thanks,
I'll
bye.
touch base with you in the morning.
All right. Brother.